Yeah. Okay, the Jentry Podcast. I know that you will be loving it. We here to break it down so that you start to understand your local government. Who are the leaders? Time to get active, do something about it. Dealing with jobs, the workforce, and affordable housing. Motivate and inspire. Elevate, take it higher. For the next generation. Knowledge is power for your community. Giving you the info that you really need. Time to make a change and a difference. Tune in, don't miss it. It's the Jentry. The Jentry Podcast. The Jentry Podcast. Making a change, switching it up.
Hello and welcome to the Jentry Podcast. Today, we have another segment of our Jentry Future Leaders. And this leader is very special. I'm your host, Jonathan Mason, but more importantly, we have Koby Townsend, who is the current city manager of the Defuniak Springs down in Florida. But he's not just any city manager. He was the youngest city manager to take the position. This man has an incredible background, an incredible story, and I do not want to steal any of the thunder because it is just that good. But I do want to say he was rated 30 under 30 for 850 magazine. So we have a celebrity in the house here, ladies and gentlemen. So Koby, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Good. Thank you for having me.
Of course, it is my pleasure. Now, like we always do, I got to jump right into it. What is the special sauce of Defuniak Spring? What makes it the best place to live in America?
Defuniak has one of the roundest naturally occurring lakes in the world. That's the center of our town. You know, our downtown's built around it. We have the oldest continuously operating library in the entire state of Florida here. And we have the oldest continuously operating fair in the state of Florida. It's currently going on now. So we got a lot of history, and that lake is our bread and butter.
I love that. I feel like I've heard them all, but I have never heard the roundest lake. So thank you for that, Koby. Now we got to jump right into it. You are literally one of the youngest city managers in Florida, the entire state. So what motivated you to get into a life of public service? Did that come from childhood? Did you always know? What was that journey like?
Yeah, I'm not real sure. Sometime when I was younger, I always knew I wanted to help people. And so at first I thought that was to become a lawyer. Went to some program at Florida State University, realized I didn't want to be a lawyer. I wanted to make the law. And so went to college, studied political science and everything like that. Came home, always didn't want to get into government, so I did. Knew nothing about city managers, right? In political science and undergrad, you don't study local government. So I knew nothing about it. And so when I got here and seen the impact that they have, the position has, and the ability to do good things, I don't know, just called me to it. And I wanted to do it really bad. And the opportunity came, and people gave me those opportunities. And then God gave me the opportunity to do this. And we just worked out. But I've always wanted to do it since I was young. And I don't really know where it came from. I just like helping people.
Wow, Koby. So that is a true calling. And for those of us that are repeat viewers of the Jentry Podcast and Jentry Future Leaders, I always say, I love when people feel called to serve. I love that it's sometimes not exactly what I wanted to do, but I just had a calling. I got to see what a city manager does like you did. But when did you kind of feel that shift from this is a good job to this is my calling? Was there a specific moment that you felt while you were doing the job currently? You're like, yeah, this is why I do what I do.
Yeah. Again, you started out in the city as a city clerk and then as the executive assistant, and got to just interact with the public and interact with the council and see that stuff. Really when I first, honestly, because I didn't know what the position entailed, right? Like I said, I wasn't really aware. I just wanted to do it. Once I was given the opportunity, I went to my first Florida City County Managers Association conference. And as soon as I got there, my eyes were totally wide. I was wide open, right? It was not at all what I thought. It was totally different. I mean, this is a group of people who love doing this. They are the consummate professional. And it just really was just amazing at what they mean to their communities, how they care about them. And that was really the first time I was like, this is more than a job. This really is a calling because we affect people's lives daily. The staff we have, the community we work in, we make decisions and are empowered making decisions that could go one way or the other, and it truly does affect people's lives. And so that's a big deal to understand and be careful of. So ever since then, I've loved it. And so I did an opening speech like this past year for the conference at one of our sessions. The question to me was, the question was about why did you choose the city? Why did you choose Defeniak Springs? And I said, I didn't choose the city. The city chose me. All right. And because every time I started working here and every time I looked at possibly me and my wife moving and doing this, something just sitting right here on my shoulder saying, it's not time yet. And so I waited and waited, and finally, it worked out. And this has obviously been that calling. And so it really was a case of I didn't choose to be here. Something chose me, and it was the city. So.
I love that. I always get these funny moments because one of my favorite thing to do with the podcast is choose the title of it, and the Defuniak chose me is definitely in the lead right now. That was definitely a special word from you. Now, when younger people kind of step into, especially positions of power, or actually young people stepping into organizations across the nation, they bring a different energy or perspective. What do you think is maybe something unique about the perspective that you and your generation can bring to specifically a local government?
Yeah, I think it's it's just a different way of thinking in general, right? I mean, I had conversations here lately with some other people, and me particular, my generation, we raised and grew up, and the education we were given was totally different than the education that our peers that are in their 50s or their 60s had. And so we just think totally different now. For me, I think from perspective of speed, just getting through it, get things done. And that comes with the help of technology, which again, we were raised with that. We were born with it. We can work an iPhone with our eyes closed, where our peers have struggles sometimes with iPhones, right? It was just a difference. And so that's a big one for me, is that on top of that, I feel like collaboration. I'm not saying it is across the board, but I have a very different perspective on collaboration and communication and asking questions, reaching across everybody in the organization, asking their opinion on how they think about this, what they think about that. Of course, we still have, the chain of command and that type of stuff for good reason, but everyone contributes to the organization. Without everybody doesn't function. So I do think that's a little bit of a different mindset that is coming around for everyone. But it's for us, and I know for me specifically, we're taught that way. It's just how we are taught with the education we're given. I would say that's some of the difference. And like I said, the speed in which I know I try to work at can be sometimes challenging for myself, because we work within a system that's already there, right? That we have to change. But my staff sometimes can feel the same way. That I'm moving too fast. So I have to slow down a little bit because I'm just so used to working with technology and having people help me out and stuff. So I think that's probably the big thing. And hopefully that'll be the trend, is that we will speed up government over the next, couple of years and decades. We make things faster. We get to results quicker because by doing that, we save taxpayer dollars.
Wow. Yeah. I think that the emphasis on technology, digital natives, your generation was born with it. One generation above, and I'll be honest, just yesterday I had to ask my wife to help me with something with an iPhone, which is crazy at 35 years old. But it's very true. Just having that and being just used to it, I think is so important. And sometimes technology can make people weary and they not want to implement something into their workflow. And I feel like if you put that first, implementing new things and trying new things is something that will enhance that speed. And then also collaboration. One of the things, I've worked with municipalities in my past as well. And sometimes, to be totally honest, like people just don't know what other lines of businesses or lines of work are actually doing. So that collaboration and communication can definitely be helped by technology. Now, your youth and your perspective are very much needed across the nation in local government, but it does come with some challenges, I assume. Can you share what has been your perspective of literally having to lead people that may be decades your senior? How has that been for you?
I mean, thankfully, I haven't really ran into any issues with it, and I think there's reasons for that. But ultimately, I don't know everything, and so being sure to lean on those individuals who have done this a long time, right? I mean, they've been doing it, they know about it, they ins and outs, and so respecting them, respecting their experience. But ultimately, it's communicating. It is creating that mutual respect to one another, and then setting reasonable expectations, right, for everyone. And that's been our key here. The city of Phoenix has been through some pretty regular change over the last decade or so. And so setting those reasonable expectations, regardless of your position, regardless of your age, is key because we're all on the same playing field, right? We have different responsibilities and different duties, but we're all headed toward the same goal. So ultimately, if I'm asking something of you, you can expect the same of me. And if you don't get that, I expect someone to tell me that. If you don't think that I'm performing at the level in which I'm asking you to do, then we need to correct that and we need to change it in direction. Thankfully, like I said, I haven't really had that issue, and I think a lot of it is, a lot of times you don't need to speak about something that's understood, right? We understand, and we're all professionals, and we know how the city's structured, the organization of it, the chain of command. But ultimately, I'm just here to help everyone. I'm here to guide and provide advice and protect them. Right, that's something we've had to do very here, and it happens all across the country, and it's a big thing now, getting more prominent. That there's a lot of influences coming in. There's a lot of public and Facebook and First Amendment auditors and everything else coming in that think that a lot of times we're not doing anything. Right, they think the government's just sitting around, and that's part of the speed thing. I think right, if we're moving quicker, you would see less of that, but that's not the case. That's truly inaccurate because everyone here for 5 days a week is busting it. We're getting it done. I mean, local governments are working with limited resources for number of services that other people couldn't even comprehend that we provide all at one time, right? And that's true across the board. And so being the person that stands there and takes the shots until we just can't anymore, but protecting those employees because they're valuable and they're the ones doing the work, that's making sure that people's trash is getting picked up, your housing permits getting completed, your water bills being paid so you don't get cut off, all these different aspects. And so again, I think mutual respect has been the biggest key, regardless of your age. If you don't have that, then it doesn't.
I think that's so imperative. That mutual respect, going both ways actually, from you in leadership, but then also being younger and respecting the fact that somebody may have been doing it longer, but then also understanding maybe from the other side, just because I've been doing it longer doesn't necessarily mean I've been doing it the correct way or the best way, or maybe the times may be shifting, and maybe that was the right way at one point in time, and maybe now there's a different or a unique way to do it. So I think respect is a big one. And most people, it's like, if you lead with respect, you hopefully can command it. So I think that's a great idea. Now, going more to the work, has there been like an initiative that is, or something that's coming up that's made you really proud and kind of harken back to like, this is the calling, this is why I do this, or just something that you've been proud that maybe it took technology or collaboration to get accomplished?
Yeah, obviously for us, we have the city, and again, I'm not the one going to fix it all, but we were behind on a lot of things we're working on. I'd say the one that stands out probably the most right now is the city of Phoenix always had a great partnership with Walton County in providing a senior center here in our city limits to all of Walton County residents. And so that's been the case probably the last 15 to 20 years. And so earlier this year, some things happened and the opportunity came up and the city decided that they would like to be the ones who run the center and be that person. We used to have a third party, a nonprofit that ran it for us. And so we engaged in that. We worked well with the county and ultimately we became the ones to operate it. We're still in partnership with the county on that. But I say that because now, for me, we, the city, have a direct relationship with those constituents of our community that are of older age. We're able to provide them these necessary services for recreation, for just ability to sit down, and they have a potluck once a month just to have interaction, to see one another. And so what that resulted in is the senior center does a event on Senior Appreciation Day. And so this was the first year under the city's control. And, we showed up, and it took me a minute, but then I realized when this whole community center was full around the walls were vendors, the chairs were full of participants. They're dancing on the stage, they're doing skits, they're going, and you sit there and you're like, this is why we do what we do right here. This is the reason, because these are people's grandparents that need this. They need the interaction. They need that direct relationship with other people for quality of life. And so sitting there, that was probably one of the biggest moments that I've had so far of this is why we do this. And there's so many other things, right, that may have very importance. Making sure your sewer's flowing and that roads are paved. Those are just the necessary everyday things. It's that type of stuff that makes you sit there and go, wow, who would ever thought that this right here has this impact on me? But it really did. It was amazing to see, and I'm glad the city did that and took on that initiative.
That's That's beautiful. And I think that that speaks to your heart and to that calling. The first thing that you think of when you think of that's why I do this is serving a population of people that need that need that interaction, that need to be respected and to deserve as much attention as the young people, as much attention as the people in their prime voting years. So I think, yeah, it really speaks to who you are as a person. And I can imagine, like, I saw you light up, and like, even up me, I'm like, wow, yeah, like I would hope that that would be the level of respect and focus that my community would have for me when I'm at that point in age. So I thank you for them. Now, one thing I do know in small cities, they're very tight knit, but then sometimes there can be a need for resources, and sometimes you have to maybe get creative, innovative, and that could be technology or that could be a number of things. Do you have any times where you felt like you had to get creative with resources to achieve a goal?
Yeah, we've you know, again, coming in, everyone's got great ideas, right? Like when you're not the one sitting behind the desk, and this is true for everyone. Yeah, you always question, why do we not do that? And why do we do it that way? Why are we not doing this? If I was in charge, we would do this, and if I was in charge, we'd do that. You know, I put all those, when this opportunity came up, I put them all on paper, and ultimately we've been working through that list. But that's when reality hits, right? We have limited resources. You have limited staff. You've got limited funding. And it's not like when you see the budget, particularly for us, we have $61 million budget this year, and 12 to 14 million of that is general fund. General fund is, fire, police, parks, grounds, streets, human resources, admin. That doesn't go very far. When the other, 40 something million is for utilities and airport and stuff. And so you have to reconcile that first and then figure out, well, how do we leverage everything we can in this community? And so one of the things that I noticed pretty early on was we were not engaging very well or communicating with our nonprofits in town, our civic organizations. And so I just seen a plethora of wealth of knowledge there that would be more than willing to help the city. Or that's what I thought. So I started reaching out to some of them, and lo and behold, they do, right? They want to be a part of the city. They live here. They love it. They want to be helping out. They want to get recognition that, hey, the garden club did this for the city, or the women's club is performing this event, or um, uh, other organizations that do historic preservation. We're doing these things to preserve our history in the city. So we started doing that. We started reaching out, getting with them. And the prime one I'll give is the garden club, right? Everyone's, they're thinking, well, I mean, why are we giving the garden club? Well, the garden club maintains the aesthetic around our library, right? The county runs the library, but we own the building, and they maintain that aesthetic. It's something we don't have to do. It's something we don't have to pay for, and that's not resources we have to use. And so they do that out of their own time and goodness. And so from there, we have now collaborated with them. We're working on a memorial garden at our cemetery with them. They've already, working on getting grants for it. We're going to collaborate with them on some mediums on changing the way they look. We've worked with them downtown. So again, you got an organization of people there who just want to help out, and we just have to be willing to reach out. We have to be willing to say, hey, we need some help. And that's been hopefully, for me, it's been very successful so far. And on top of that, we have other groups with historic preservation in our Chautauqua buildings. The city of Phoenix built around Chautauqua. It came from New York, is where the main campus was, and there's a few others now, I think, in Michigan and Ohio. And so there's organizations that are dedicated solely to the Chautauqua Holy Brotherhood. That's what they care about. And so the city hadn't engaged them for years, but so we started going back, give them updates. Here's what we're doing in the building. Here's the grant money we have. And now, they're fully engaged. They're willing to start donating money again to the projects that they want to be there. That's what they care about. And so, that's been the big one is partnerships. And that's just the small organizations. We reestablished our relationships with the county, with state and federal agencies, because that's where we're getting our grant money from. And, I told someone the other day, the county, if you have a bad relationship with Big Brother, you're not gonna get far, right? So we make sure we work well with the county and work with them. Ultimately, when there's a lack of resources, you either have to have partnerships or you got to get really creative. And we do get creative on a lot of things. We've really streamlined processes, totally changed the way we do budgeting here. When I came in, it was just spreadsheets. You probably was just a spreadsheet with a line. We've now changed that. We have over 100-page document. It's going to get better next year. Eventually, my goal is to win that budget award for the GFOA. And so it just takes a lot of time. But with limited resources, you got to get creative. And there's a lot of times there's the saying, do more with less. Yeah, that's true, especially in small cities like ours. Our administrative assistants, they're not assistants. I mean, they're doing everything above and beyond. They're doing things that administrative assistants don't do at larger municipalities or larger counties. So, um, understanding that and knowing that everyone's going to have to help out and pitch more. But I say the term do more with less because again, to a certain point, you have to do that. But that's not always the case. It could also be sit down, rework your processes in public works, rework our routes, figure out what's a priority, prioritize things. If everything's a priority, nothing's a priorities. When you reduce resources, it takes longer time to do things. But just facing reality and being open to it, and partnerships is a big thing, right? Everyone's here to help one another, and we just want to leverage those resources as best as possible.
Wow, I think that was all just very important, and that through line of collaboration came back, and I think it's so important. Funny enough, I actually spoke to she's a state rep in Ohio, Christine Cockley, and she was saying how nonprofits pick up the slack where government doesn't necessarily have the resources and or time to do. And that collaboration is what makes government great. When you go outside of yourself and understand that, hey, there are people, like you said, that are passionate about this and want to do the work. How can I support them to then go and get accomplished what we need to get accomplished when there is a limitation? So, man, yeah, you're really on the ball there. And I think another great point out, and I hear that all the time in smaller cities, even on Jentry Future Leaders. I talked to a young lady down in South Carolina, and she's an assistant too, but she is doing everything. So I can definitely attest to that. Now, pivoting to the future, I know you're in your role now. What are some of the things that you would want future residents to say about Defuniak in the future?
I think for us, and this is when I started the city, we didn't really have a whole lot of data, and so we are putting things in place now where we make decisions off of data. Particularly on your operations of public works and utilities and those type of things. But I say that to say that for me, I want people to look at the city and say, hey, the city is one of the more high functioning organizations in the state, right? Because we do have limited resources. So we need to leverage that technology. We need to leverage data to help us get there and rely on the people who we have here working to do those jobs. But ultimately it is being a high functioning organization because we see the pressures coming down, obviously it started at the federal level within the state of Florida from looking at spending of local governments. And, we ourselves at the city have done that this year. You see all these things, and it's easy to look at that and say, hey, we can cut back on this, and we can cut that out and do this. But what service are we reducing to our citizens? People are going to live here. If one of our main functions of government is to provide a high quality of life, how do we do that? And so we want to make sure we're providing that high quality of life, but also being good stewards of the resources we do have. And then customer service, right? We've had a lot of turnover again, both from this position, other positions, and we want to get that stable. We want to be consistent and recreate the culture here. And we want people to say, you know what, man, it was a pleasure working with the city, helping me out, right? That's not always, you may not always get what you like. You might not like the response you get or decision given to you, but at least we did it in a way in which, we're up front. We tell you the fact, we tell you why we can or can't do something, and we help you out however we can within our legal means. And so that would be the biggest thing for me are those things, and ultimately quality of life, right? Number one, bar none. That's why we do what we do, is provide a high quality life for people.
I definitely appreciate that. And having residents in the future know that you guys were efficient in serving them and making sure that their quality of life is better is all you can ask for at the end of the day. And what, as a community resident myself, that's all I can ask for. For my local government. So as we end up, I do want to, because this is focused on the young people, and we have a lot of young people that tune in. Do you have any advice for people coming up that are maybe thinking about even a career in public service, or maybe just being more civically engaged? Do you have any advice for those young people?
Yeah, I would say, ultimately, the way I got here in the day and so quickly is part of it is because of my willingness to just do things right. If you'll just go out and you'll help others, and you will be willing to participate and to take on responsibilities and work and just do it without expectation of something in return. Not only is it fulfilling to you, but it's fulfilling to the people you're around, and ultimately you will see fruit bear from that. And so for me, that's one of the biggest ones. Obviously, when I went to the council before I got appointed interim, I just hadn't long turned 25, and so um, people look at you funny, like, well, that's not going to happen, or why are you doing that? Well, all they can do is tell you no, right? I mean, that's all I can tell you is no, and go through that. And so I had one tell me that. I had four that were confident in my ability, and I had one that was like, I just don't think you're the right fit. I don't think now's the time. I don't think you're prepared for it. So very clean communication, understood that, still got appointed. We worked through that. And ultimately, I appreciate every single one of them. They gave me an opportunity. And when the time came to make it permanent, the one who was a no was the very one who made the motion because of the work she'd seen us do. She's seen the things that I was able to do with staff and we were able to get done and being truthful about our situation in the city. And so ultimately, it takes 5-0 to get appointed here in Defuniak. And so I got that because of those 5 people willing to give me that opportunity because I was not afraid to go and say, hey, this is what I want to do. And here's why I'm the person to do it. And all I can do is tell you no, ultimately. So, and then lastly, for me, it's, being honest with people, trustworthy, and then willing to put others first. If you're willing to do those 3 things, you can just about guarantee it'll come. Now, just like God says in the Bible, it might not happen tomorrow. It might be a long time from now. It might be a few years. It might be a few months, but it'll happen. People sometimes lose faith, especially in public service, right? Because when I first started to wanting to apply and get into the city and start working public service, it was always, well, people never leave government. They're here forever. They're not going to leave. And so that can be a sort of a turn off for some people. Like, well, what's the point in trying if I'm never going to get in the door? But you just got to get that one person to give you that chance. And so luckily enough, I was able to get that person to give me that one chance. And from there, just snowballed and worked out. So I would definitely say try it out. All you can do is be told no.
I love that. And I think that is great advice, that persistence that you speak of, because all they can say is no. And oftentimes that no comes with an explanation or some critique or suggestion. So even with that no comes you now being better the next time. And if you stick to it, whether, like you said, whether it's tomorrow, next day, 10 years, it's coming with that persistence.
And I would just say when you get that no, you don't stop. Right. That's when you up it. That's when you do more, when you do better. And I know for me now, in this seat, that's a big deal. When you see, when you see say, nah, that's not the direction we go right now, or I like the idea, but now's not the time. Well, you just pick it up and keep going even more, and you gain so much more respect on that as well. And then ultimately, there's always that fine line between, is it right to stay, is it right to go? That's your own decision, but ultimately, don't go back. Don't regress when you have a no. You need to keep going.
For sure. Well, Koby, thank you so much for being here. From everyone at Jentry, just really wanted to say thank you. Your background, your journey, and what you're doing at the age you're doing it at is nothing short of impressive. So thank you for being here. And for all our viewers, thank you. Again, this has been the Jentry Podcast, our Jentry Future Leaders segment. And we had Koby Townsend, who is the city manager of Defuniak Springs down in Florida. So thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.